to introduce our speaker today. So everybody has met Seema Balwani, I hope, at this point, but I don't know if you knew this. For over 25 years, she has worked on critical research, policymaking, and innovative solutions to advance our understanding of climate impacts and improve the sustainability of oceans. In this capacity, she has worked in New York, Texas, Washington, Washington State, and Hawaii for both the federal government, NOAA, and NGOs. Seema's expertise includes leading programs and projects, devising innovative strategies, and developing policies that promote conservation. She is formerly a member of the Seattle Rotary Club, but moved to Florida 2 years ago. She enjoys travel, language, study, watercolor painting, sketching, writing fiction, literature, art, theater, food, and I would hope resting, gardening, and water sports. So welcome, Seema.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the very nice introduction, Dave. And I wanted to tell you first that I'm sorry I missed the new member get together last night. I am looking forward to meeting all of the new members and getting to know you. So thank you for doing that and for helping, this club with new ideas. So as most of you know, I went to the International Rotary Convention in June, and it was a wonderful opportunity to get to know people in Rotary from all over the world. But I wanted to start with this, I don't know what this is. Okay, there we go. So I wanted to start with a few pictures from Banff, which is what I did on my first day. I went out to Banff National Park and was able to see Banff and Lake Louise and visit the castles there. There's two of them. There's the Banff Springs Hotel, which is amazing, and you'll see a picture of it in a little while. And also the, now I'm blanking on the second one, Lake Louise Hotel. So you can see here how beautiful it was. It was pouring rain most of the day. So these photos are more atmospheric, and you can't exactly see the tops of mountains, but it is an unbelievably stunning place. It's breathtaking to walk around, and the water, beautiful. So I highly recommend visiting. The transnational railroad goes through here. It was established in, I think, 1855, and it's the first park in Canada, and it's spectacular. So these are just a few of the photos that I took. I met some great people from Rotary and outside of Rotary who were there just to take the tour. So it was pretty spectacular. I'll put this on so you can watch it after I finish talking, but I just wanted to give you a taste of what Calgary looks like outside of Calgary. One second, sorry about that. Okay, this is a picture of the opening session in Calgary. So it was 3 days. The conference itself was 3 days, and every moment of every day you could do something if you wanted to. There were events in the evening, events during the day, music playing in certain live music playing in certain areas, lots of coffee stands, and a really, really engaged public. I can't believe how friendly people were and how many there were. 16,000 people attended this conference and basically took over Calgary. All the hotel rooms, it was difficult to find a place at the last minute, I can tell you that. The the event was huge. So this was a gigantic stadium and it filled up for this event. And they had people from different countries, one person from each country carry the flag and walk through. And it took like 45 minutes to do because there were so many countries and each one had its own representation. They wanted to be inclusive, and this was a great ceremony to show how many countries participated. So we had great speeches also. And they played music and had all of the leadership. There's a bunch of trustees that are leading Rotary. So we got to hear from some of them and hear about them talking about what's important to them. And Mark Maloney was the one that I heard and I spoke to. And it's, I have to say that they're inspiring. These people have been working in Rotary for decades and have done incredible work. So it was very good to connect with people like that who have been around for such a long time and accomplished so many great things. The event that I went to was related to the indigenous population of Canada. They put on this performance that included a symphony. So they did a storytelling exercise about the First Nations while the symphony was playing, and it was spectacular. So I have to say, this is one of my favorite parts of the convention. I always enjoy when Native peoples are recognized and their contribution to culture and community is recognized. So this was a wonderful storytelling event. Other events included rodeo events. There was a My Canada event where they had music and dance. So there's different things that go on at night, as I mentioned, which make the event really, really fun. This was where the event was held. And there you're going to see a couple of things like this. I went around and talked to people. It was incredible. So the way the event was organized is they had talks during the day. There were three levels at this gigantic event venue, and they had huge rooms, conference rooms. So you would go to a conference room, listen to a talk, and if you had any space in between these talks, you would go down to the first level, and they had different areas like economic development, peace and conflict resolution. And you would go and talk to people who were having, who had clubs or interest in that area. So if you just walked around, you could speak to very, very engaged people about their topics. So this was one of them. And one talk that I really enjoyed and I thought was very helpful was AI. So we spent an hour and a half talking about AI and what it can do for a Rotary Club. And I had never used AI before, and I went to this talk and now I'm using it all the time to ask it questions, to ask it to do things for me. And I can definitely understand why students are using it, even though it's not something I would advocate, but it is so easy to use. And there's so many things you can do with it. Draft missing sections of your notes. It can summarize Rotary policies, facts. You can ask it questions. What should I do about this? And it'll come up with draft answers. So we talked a lot about that. So this was comparing documents. This is ideas about how to generate bylaws or facts from bylaws. And, these are great examples for me about how we can work. I had drafted some reference notes for each committee, for two committees. And I realized that I could give this to AI and say, how do we make this better? How do we polish it? How do we add this? Or how do we make it more efficient? All of those things AI can do. And so it was the terms of reference I was talking about. So the terms of reference, we could just hand it to AI that's kind of interesting. So designing contents, it also talks about, our external approach, whether it's social media or just around town, if we want to put up signage or whatever we want to do, this can help us with a first draft, whether it's posters, whether it's social media posts, or just general communications. So we spent quite a bit of time on how to write requests to AI and how specific it needs to be. And, you need to give, if you're going to ask it a request to do something, you really have to articulate what it is that you want. And these are some examples of what people had written. And it's, again, if you have an Instagram, you can ask it to write 3 captions, and then you can choose the one you want, and you can edit if it, needs that. So I was really excited about the use of AI. That's why I'm spending a little bit of time on this. So we had one person, this is an example, he is a change maker. So he told AI to do all of these things that's listed here. He wanted something very creative and he didn't know how to do it himself. And this is exactly what I would do if someone told me to create something. So this is what it came up with. 2 men became boxers, and he gets to talk about change in a very positive, uplifting way. And I think it's great because it can really kind of soften the blow if you're doing something difficult, or make it a little bit more interesting and fun and creative. So he did these and also these. So, you can make AI help you do anything really. It can come up with these posters and talk about it, change. And I thought these were hilarious. So it's definitely a tool we can use. It's not like we need to follow it directly. You can always edit things, but it does give you a good starting point for whatever you're doing, I think. So this is just a good example. Again, more things it can do in terms of streaming events. It can, add additional things to whatever product you want. And these are your top 5 tips when you get started with AI. Extra descriptive is key. We spent a lot of time on making sure that people understood that you have to tell it exactly what you want, because it is a blank slate. And but if you give it the information, if you give it in terms of reference, or you give an idea like the boxing idea, it can take off with it. The exciting thing about the convention was, aside from the talks they were having, they would have long talks, and in between the long talks, they would have these brief mini talks. So all of that was going on. In the bottom area, I told you they had all the clubs who wanted to, they had their presentation space. They had the RAGAS, the Rotary Action Group Against Slavery, had its own stall and all pamphlets and information. There were many interact groups who were there. So there were younger kids who were in their stalls presenting, and it was just super fun. This is called the friendship area. And you can go around and you can talk to all of these people in both sections. There was one for the groups, and then there was just a general area with like the village. They had a convention put on its own section of the village where you can go in and talk to people. And there were different stalls from like DB, what is it called? DB, yeah. So they had a stall there, and so you can communicate with different parts. And then there was a vendors section. And if you ever wondered where people got Rotary ties, Rotary shirts, earrings, necklaces, belts, all of that is from these conventions. They have stalls with everything, all these trinkets that you'd never even imagined. If you wanted to go shopping for Rotary, I'd recommend this convention, because they really had a bunch of different stalls selling everything Rotary related. the vendors were pretty varied after that. They had massage chairs, those great massage chairs that relieve tension. They had jewelry for sale, so you had that break if you wanted to do something non-Rotary related. But it was this is one of the groups. So Rotary has friendship groups as well. So this is one, it's a home exchange of fellowships, a fellowship for home exchange. And you can join the fellowship and you can trade homes with people. So you find a home you like, you ask them to come visit, and if they like your home, they can come visit. And it's a great home exchange if you wanted to be a part. These fellowship groups, there were quite a few of them there, and they cover all of your interests. They're trying to build fellowship among Rotary members. So you had Rotary Fellowship for tennis, you had Rotary Fellowship for tea, you had one for skiing, one for home exchange, and a bunch of them. And I think these are a good way to get close to people who enjoy the same thing you do. When they have these, usually at the Rotary Convention, they'll get together, the fellowship groups, for a breakfast or a lunch or something, and get to know each other more in person. And some of them get together also during the year, like if there's a tennis tournament, fellowship might go to that. And it's just another way to build connections among Rotary folks. So I think it's a great idea. And there's a wide variety of them. So I think at least one would be interesting to everybody. I went to the economic development session and talked to the people who are working on microfinance. And for those of you who don't know, microfinance is a way to get money to small individuals or individual companies abroad in developing areas that, say, a group of women want to set up a sewing cooperative, or if they want to set up any kind of little small operation, the microfinance group does this. And this is kind of their process of setting up different microfinance. And I think it's a great idea, helping, sometimes what we do is we go in and do one thing and then leave them to it. But this is a way to help people help themselves. So this is strategic in terms of long-term assistance. This is a group, this is a picture of a group that sets up homes. They have a couple of boxes, and they take them to people, and it automatically gives you all the things you need for a home. It's a tent, a sturdy tent, a few things for cooking, a few things for bedding, a few emergency supplies. And every time there is an emergency, whether it's a refugee crisis or, a devastation from an environmental event like flooding or tsunamis, they come in, and this is all the areas where they have warehouses where they house these immediate set up homes. And so that they can, as soon as something happens, they can rush in and help provide support. So I can't remember the name of the group. I should have taken a picture of it, but if you want to know, let me know and I'll find the name. But I talked to them for a long time, and the work they do is incredible. You can helping people who are in crisis just, have some privacy in their own space if they are refugees or in a flooding event. This is me with two of the people from August, the Rotary Action Group Against Slavery. I attended an evening event with them. It was a vigil for people who had gone through sex trafficking and were now trying to rebuild their lives. And that was, okay, this is switching piece, but that August evening was pretty incredible because they had two people who had gone through the process of going through sex trafficking, but then also rebuilding their lives, and who are now talking to other people about that experience. And it's something we can talk about a little bit later. So the piece, there was a whole peace park, an area of the convention that was dedicated to peace and avoiding conflict. And a lot of this was a teaching one about understanding your audience when you're talking to them. This is how to create peace both professionally and in your personal life. So they had speakers talking about the different aspects of that. And this slide is particularly about determining who your audience is. And these are general guidelines for how to think about peace and how to approach conflict resolution. So they had a lot of speakers, and there were an extraordinarily large amount of people at these talks. So a lot of times I had to really elbow my way in or just listen because there were a lot of tall people in that group. So these are just a couple of projects that they worked on, this peace-driven initiative. So they do a lot of work in a lot of different capacities. So they're almost cross-cutting. Their work is cross-cutting among all the other groups, other missions of Rotary, because they're approaching and trying to set up the foundation for a successful community. So I think that this is a really important step, and their work has been pretty incredible in that they've gone to areas where there's been a lot of conflict. Gun violence always is very heavy conflict, and they've made changes. These are examples. So they talked a lot about how to do the conflict resolution, what approaches you should take. And they focused on building bridges and communication and things that we kind of instinctively know, but these are good tools that we have to remember, keep in our minds, fresh in our minds, so that we incorporate it into our daily lives. So there is a training that you can take through the Peace Project, and you can kind of learn the steps. If there's a struggle in your life or whatever, they will talk about how to solve that or how to approach solving it. So I found it really useful. It was a really good group of people who were talking really about something that's fundamentally important for all of us to have in our lives. So this is the home exchange. So this is the Peace Park I was talking about. And it always looked like this. It was very full, great talks, great people who have done a lot of amazing things. And this was a whole section that was put aside for that. The others, and you can see in the back and on the side, those are the different stalls that people have, both the fellowship groups and the Rotary groups. There's another picture from the other side. The Oregon Peace Trail, they were advertising. So the individual talks, this was a group that's doing work to bring peace in conflict areas. And it's called Reaching Across Borders. And again, the thing to know about these talks is that these are actual people doing actual work. They're on the ground, in the dirt, they're out there, and it's amazing what they've accomplished. I think more than anything, I found this conference to be inspiring because it reminded me how big the Rotary world is. It's great to read the magazine, but it doesn't give you, I think, the entire scope of what Rotary does. Attending these talks and looking at things that people are doing, it's just incredibly inspiring and rejuvenating. To think about how Rotary has placed itself all over the world. And it's not just throwing money away. These are results-oriented projects where they can show that they've built X, Y, and Z or accomplished X, Y, and Z. And groups like this, I was really impressed by when they were talking about what they've done on the ground. And I don't know where else you would hear this except at a convention to really get a sense of what people, want to do, where they're headed, and what their aspirations are for the future. And a lot of that can be transferred also to us, in not exact detail, but we can take from their ideas and their methods and put together projects or work with existing projects. There's plenty of them out there, and really add that to our strategic thinking about what we want our group to be. So again, they talked about lessons learned. In every project, with every mistake, you learn something. So I'm glad that people also talked about what didn't go right, because that's an important way to learn. Here they are again. I like this. This was a library intent. So they're putting together things that communities that look like this, made out of stone, and just adding a little library can make such a difference in people's lives. So this is coming back. I'm sorry, these are out of order because I honestly don't know how to move the pictures once they're loaded up. Been trying and I can't figure it out. Not technical at all. This was the evening event, and I wanted to talk about this because we had the two leaders of Ragas who were speaking, and also, like I said, the women who had gone through the process. And it was really incredibly moving. I don't know where that picture is. Anyways, they came up and they have dedicated their lives to educating people. So that's what they do. The women travel to different places. And, you know, at some point, if we like, we can ask them to come here as well. But it was a really incredible firsthand talk about what happens. And I was moved, incredibly moved by their conversation about what happens. It made me want to do something about it even more. We also, at the end of the night, had a peace pole unveiled. And it ended up being kind of a comedy because there were two short people trying to unveil the peace pole and they couldn't do it. So we had a room of people with candles lit in the dark, waiting for them to unveil it. And in the end, we had to send someone down there to help them, a tall person. So it ended up being kind of a comedy. But it was an important event. It was their first peace pole there. And as I mentioned before, the Hiltons are going to try and put peace poles at all of their hotels in the city. So it's, I think people, especially the human trafficking, people recognize how important it is. And I heard, there were 3 talks and I just heard amazing things. The children in Canada, there was one person who, a young girl who recognized there is a problem, and she mobilized all the schools across Canada, slowly, little by little, as a Rotaractor. And she is this woman over here in yellow. She has done incredible work across the country for getting teaching and awareness for human trafficking. So it just kind of showed me that it doesn't matter what your age is. Her passion for doing something about this egregious problem was clear. And the woman next to her is from Vietnam. They're starting a new project there, which I'll talk to you about at some point in the future. But there's people, again, there who are demonstrating their passion by doing real on the ground work all around the world. And it's incredibly inspiring to see how much of themselves they put into their work. These aren't easy things to do. It involves a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of work. So I was very impressed by the fact that they did the work and then they're coming to talk to us about it. It was just very inspiring. Another speaker. This is the place where we held the event in Calgary, and it was huge. They had large sculptures and like multiple buildings and a ton of people. Like it would take at least 10-15 minutes to walk from one end of the building to the other. This is another view of the building. This is the stadium where they had, I think it's a cowboy thing, but they had the sessions every day, the opening session and the daily session. This was outside the library and I just thought it was cute. So this is a library. It's also listed as a place to see because it's so beautifully designed. This is next to the cafe, so you can sit and get a great view of the city. This is just a picture of how many people came from this small town in India. I would say I was so impressed by how many people showed up. You had, there were a ton of people from Seattle, there were a ton of people from Minneapolis, there were just, and around the world, from Nigeria, from India. It was incredible that they had women from Africa dressed in their native clothing. A lot of people, you know, from India dressed in their native clothing. So you walk around and it's such an incredible thing to hear all of these different languages and look at the different clothing people are wearing. It really was beautiful. On the page now, the Rotary Convention website, internet site, they show pictures of that people have posted, where people just send messages to each other, being very thankful. So I just took a couple clips. This is the House of Friendship, and people are just showing how happy they are. These are Rotary from India. So this is Burlington, Washington. They had a lot of people come. This is from Nigeria. Nigeria had an incredible number of people there. So that was pretty amazing. South Korea was another place that had a lot of people. So that's a picture of them there. So this is the schedule. This is technical. I'm just letting you know when you go. They have this page that you can click on that shows the schedule. So it changes a lot because people are moving around. But the night before, the morning of, you can look at the schedule for that day, which makes it easy. You can pick the talks you want to go to. You hit plus, and it goes to another page. That's my schedule. And you click on my schedule, and it'll show you all the ones you picked for that day. So you can go from one place to the other smoothly. And I'm just showing you this because my first day was chaotic because I didn't know about this. And it was the rest of the days, once I used it, it made going from one place to another very easy. And this is a great tool if you get lost easily like I do, and you just need help. You can be like, where is level 2, room 224? It's clearly laid out and there's no worries. So on the top, there's the Rotary Action Group meeting, the slavery group. So you just go through like that. And that's it. These are my pictures. I didn't take a lot of them, but these are a few of the things that happened there. And again, overall, I think it was incredibly, incredibly inspiring. I don't feel like I need to go every year, but every few years, I think it would be a great thing to remember what we're doing, why we're doing it, and the big picture of the results that we're showing in our projects overseas. So it was a really great adventure. I met a lot of people, had an envelope full of cards. And it's funny, anywhere you were in the city, you could sit down and there was a Rotary person right next to you talking. And Rotary people were incredibly friendly. I didn't find anyone who was negative. Everybody was very positive and open and would talk to you as soon as you sat down. So it's a great way to just connect with different groups of people. So I definitely enjoyed it and I'm glad I went. Taiwan, Taipei. Yep. I would really love to see a group of us go to one because I think as a group, you have someone to, give feedback and talk about, oh, I went to this talk, that talk, and you can share housing. The Seattle group got a big house and just put everyone in it. And they just had a great time and, better housing than I did for sure. So it would be great if we got a group together because I think that you could learn a lot, like I said, from the AI and just learn about each of the clubs. The Rotaract kids were awesome. I met some from the Bay Area of California who were doing incredible work and they had pictures all over their stall of their group and everybody was so engaging. So I highly recommend that we send a group either to the next one or the one after is in Minneapolis, so that might be more financially possible, but I would love to lead a group and go there, and it's just so much fun. I'm open to any questions if people have any. No, this was my first. Yes. Great, thank you for that. Just more support in case we'd like to get a group together for Minneapolis. We can put that on our long-term radar. No other questions? Well, feel free to come to me afterwards if you think of anything. And thank you all for giving me the time today.